based on today's theme, how the youth can, create change, using innovation in developing the food, systems in Nigeria and Africa as a whole. So Akin, over to you. You have about 12, 15 minutes.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bobby, and thank you to the entire participants and everybody that is joining us for today's series. My name is Akin, once again, as Shivomi said. Forget all the old grammar, whatever the title she has read in the old profile thing. Well, to me, I call it the power of the hustle, and Shivomi is still my guy anytime, any day. Anyway, so basically, let me just start by saying that I'll start with a story of myself and what led me to the agri sector. My journey started about 20 years ago. Was just like a joke. I tell people that, look, I did not study agriculture as a course in the university or polytechnic or whichever, but it grew me as a passion, which I started about 20 years ago, writing articles about agriculture on a blog spot. So what I did was just to pick up materials across the world and put it together in a blog spot and share with several stakeholders about 20 years ago who were practitioners in the industry. That was what I was doing. And over the years, the passion grew, effectively, and it now became part of me. And it's like the entire Calabi now is agriculture, agribusiness, youth, and food systems. But the thing that I keep telling young entrepreneurs these days is that the passion you build must first of all be a passion you love and a passion you can identify yourself with anytime, any day. Because when you see people talk about, oh, I'm a farmer, I want to go into the agri sector, the first feedback you get will be, what do you want to go and do in the industry? What exactly is your gain in the industry? But people doesn't realize that agriculture is the only sector today that can employ anyone, both the skilled and non-skilled. And that is how diverse the sector is today. And it's so diverse that it's the only sector today that can help reduce the level of unemployment in any economy. That is how big agriculture is. But we've not gotten to this stage where our youth can begin to recognize that fact or begin to adopt that system and see it as the only sector that can solve challenges of the world. Because food is the only thing or the only language anybody knows. For example, we have major artists today in Nigeria, like of Jazzy, Band, Whiskey, Davido, and the likes. But one thing is very paramount. If this artist doesn't take food in their system, it's impossible for them to go to the stage and perform. They need some level of food intake and perform. Without the food, automatically they can't perform. And the food goes back to the credit of a farmer. And the question is, how important are we taking our food system today in Nigeria? Or how important are our youth being able to take the food system today in Nigeria? Now, for me as a Kalabi, what I've done over the years is to build a structure with my partners, co-founders, and directors that, look, we need to start creating a chain of industries across the value chain, or create a value chain in which our younger generation can begin to see agriculture as a platform they can actually see themselves with. And that actually started from us when we started with an innovation about 6 years ago called Agri Campus Store. So what we did with Agri Campus Store was simple. What we did was that we went from various campuses across several parts of Nigeria, meaning went from Lagos to Kaduna to Kano to Ogun, name it. We're actually in all campuses in Nigeria, funded by us. We had no partners or no funders. We actually use our own little fund to fund the whole thing. So the idea was to first of all start with the number one strategy, was to reorientate the mindset of what agriculture is amongst Nigerian youth. Because when talk about agriculture, to them, it's all about farming, the O and the cutlass. No, the O, the cutlass, the tediousness, the pain, that was what is their mindset. And to be shocked, most of them are basically what my partner always call them as frustrated jambites, meaning that they are those that were actually aiming to study either medicine or physics or probably mathematics or other courses again along the medical line. That was the ambition. But eventually they were now given agriculture. In Yoruba they call it Bajensimi. Just take and let's just go. That was a mindset they all had. Studying agriculture for 5 years, and they embraced it because they want to cover the shame of, let me just be in school and do something. But agriculture is the best course you can study in any institution if you're able to navigate yourself around it. And the reason is because agric actually owns the future of any world today in Nigeria. If you look at the European countries, they will tell you the number key factor of the economy is food, and the food comes from the farmer. So we started that campus store, changing the mindset of agripreneurs across the country, which was successful for us. And from that, we now navigated into now implementing the process. So we now started giving some level of funding, support, mentorship to these young agripreneurs on how they can begin a small-scale farming process. So we could see a young farmer probably in an institution, probably OAU, Unilorin, Laspo Tech, FNAB and all that. They have one small farm in a small land that they begin to cultivate. That was the idea. And that idea now developed into a reoriented mindset and see themselves as a contributor into the economy. So that was success for us for the past 6 years. We've been doing that across campuses. And we have today young agripreneurs have been successful in building agriculture as a career. And that has made us really proud. Now, because we're now in an age of digitalization. So it means that most of our youth want to embrace some level of innovation, digitalization, technology into what they're doing. So what we now did, again, was to create dynamic tools that will help them do work differently and also attract them better to agriculture. So that's why these days we tell people or young farmers that, look, if you're doing agriculture or agribusiness, you must adopt some level of technology tools to enhance your work and also make it a little bit more effective. I keep telling people that, look, agriculture doesn't have to be expensive to be effective. Okay, with your simple digital solutions like mobile phones, mobile phones could be either the smartphones or the other regular phones, you can actually use it as a tool to help develop the agri sector. I'm going to make reference to what the current AFDB, Akim Adesina, did when he was the Minister of Agriculture in 2013-2014. Then there was this project they were working on called the GES project with the federal government. What they did was to purchase these regular mobile phones, the feature phones, for small little farmers. And the idea was that at any point in time, government is ready to supply farm inputs to these smaller farmers. They get SMS on their mobile phones to know the exact location, the exact amount, quantity, the right input they're going to have on their mobile phones. And that was helpful for them. So it was a simple technology tool he adopted years back and was very effective to navigate and also curb some level of corruption within the agri sector as at that time. So today, we have lots of mobile apps today that's functional. They have some that have been developed to solve the problem of climate change solutions, some to solve the problem of pests, pests among crops, in some crops, some to determine soil test, some for weather, some for we have drone technology, we have big data, we have some for irrigation, name it. A lot of tools have been developed today that is solving or helping farmers produce more. But it doesn't end there. Youth of the 21st century still need to think aloud and also create so much more solutions that will still solve major problems across the value chain. Because we are still closing the gap in bit, but there's still a lot to do. And it's only the youth that can actually solve those solutions and provide those solutions that would help our farmers, that would help experts within the agri sector, and also help develop food security in the country today. When I started struggling in getting materials, from friends, from research institutions, and all that. But today you have the Google space. Google space can give you anything you want, but and you must be able to navigate how you can access the power digitalization tools that will help, or research materials that have been adopted by several countries and have been successful. Adopt it and see how you can reinvent several things that will help solve the current food system or food security we are facing currently today in Nigeria, which is very paramount. So it doesn't stop there. Dependency on our youth is very paramount. Youth of Nigeria needs to start seeing agriculture not as farming, but beyond farming, and as a major factor that can help reduce a level of unemployment. So the unemployment in Nigeria is as high and is skyrocketing every other day. And it's only the agri sector that can help reduce that level. But it depends again on the federal government and those in power, probably the major stakeholders between the private sector and public and government sector that can create platforms that would engage our youth and agriculture in a dynamic way and in a very, very beautiful way. Some people say it that can create agriculture and make agriculture sexy, make it beautiful. But to make agriculture beautiful and sexy, you must create innovative platforms that will help bring in students or bring in youth and let it sit as interesting as platforms. Now, today, we are corporate farmers have been able to create several things across the value chain that has been able to even engage other youth or create employment for the youth. For example, we've been able to properly harness the agri extension services by creating an award-winning agri-media communication platform called Agri-Business Weekend. We've been able to develop several agri-presenters today in Nigeria that they are experts in the field, and also supplying information to farmers. Today, we've been able to create an e-learning academy, which is 100% digitalized and digitalized platform. And we've been able to create jobs for volunteers, on the platforms. So it means that we're trying in our own capacity as corporate farmers to create job across the ecosystem, okay, and also engage you to see the beauty part of agriculture. Though it might not be that easy, but we know that with partners, federal government, stakeholders, and also major private sectors can support and create more innovative platforms that will support our youth and also help reduce the level of reduce level of insecurity, food security in Nigeria today, and provide more food for farmers. And with that way, we can actually begin to close the gap of our food system, and most importantly, create jobs for youth and also for other stakeholders who are interested in the value chain. So I think this is the bit that I have to say regarding the theme of the topic, and also for how youth also can be more interested within the agri sector. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you so much, Akin Alabi. Thank you so much. That was really enlightening. One of the things I was able to pick was the fact that, these days we can begin to use technology tools in agriculture. Growing up, and when we do anything agri-related in school, what they tell us is we see a picture. I don't know if some of us here can remember, Mr. Sada lives in Sapele. He grows crops from cassava and plantain, blah, 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 blah. And so the picture of agriculture, the picture of farmers we have is just one man that is very poor, living in one small community, in one village or something. And so no youth, nobody is always interested in going into agriculture. But we thank God that the narrative is changing now, and people are beginning to see light in agriculture and the essence of agriculture. Because, just like you mentioned, Akin, when you started, we're talking about the fact that footballers, athletes, everybody needs food. Food is essential for, for living. So it's just very important. So thank you so much for that, Akin. I'm sure some of us have questions, but we're going to take the questions immediately after Peace, our second speaker, speaks. So Peace, are you there?
I'm here.
Yes. Okay.
Evening.
So based on your experience, working with young people, what are your perspectives on sustaining our food systems? How can we get more young people involved in agriculture? What are the practical things or solutions that can be used to transform food systems and even systems generally in Nigeria, in Africa, and of course the world at large?
Okay, thank you very much for that. That's a very interesting question to continue the conversation. But first, I would really just like to say how grateful I am to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And a huge thank you as well to our first speaker. It's really, really interesting to learn about this whole sector, the whole agricultural sector, from someone who is a practitioner in the field. It's very enlightening, and I'm just grateful to be able to learn through that. Now, to get to your question real quick, my perspectives, I think we are talking about a problem here, but it's not just a problem, it's our life actually, because agriculture is not just some distant thing that, we leave to the people in the village to take care of, and then they bring the food to the city, and then we see it on our plates. The truth is, it's our lifestyle, it's our health. It's really whole society encapsulated in one sector. So I think that to begin to solve whatever problem generally in the terms of how a society can evolve and begin to do better in any sphere of influence, it starts with getting interested. Right, it starts with getting interested in the problem, in understanding the problem. There was something that Akin said while he was talking about how to be able to solve any problem in the field, you need to have a passion for it, and you need to be able to identify what that problem is. And that's really where it starts from, honestly. If you're going to have any conversation about what is happening right now, we see the statistics. We see how, for example, Africa has the largest percentage of arable land in the world. We are talking over 60% of uncultivated land in Africa that can be used to feed the world. But Africa also has one of the largest populations of hungry and poor people in the world. It doesn't add up. So obviously the statistics, they are glaring, they are troublesome, and they are very painful to watch. But how do we begin to step in there and say, okay, we've seen this happen over the years. How can we begin to take charge? So I was saying that any problem, it starts with getting interested, and when you can identify with it and then begin to take action where necessary. So it's a whole systemic thing, honestly. It's a whole systemic process. You don't just jump in there. We're actually coming from different spheres and different sectors right now, I can tell, not just from the agricultural space, but people from marketing, people from the sciences, different people, professional. But what we have in common is that we are all young people who see that, okay, there's a problem with our agricultural system. How can we begin to have a conversation around that and begin to take action? So my perspective is, it starts with getting interested. And being here, for example, that's definitely you registering your interest, and then going back to see, okay, what has been done in this field, and how can we build upon what has been done. Mr. Akin was sharing about his own story, how he got into the field. He said he didn't study it in school, right? But look at him right now, a professional, right? Asking the right questions, who are the players in this field, and how can we begin to maybe partner with them? How can I learn more about this? How can I begin to see, okay, who has done something meaningful in this field, right? Who has done some kind of innovation that we can begin to even leverage upon. So, it starts with, again, asking the right questions, being interested, and then asking the right questions. I think that's my perspective on how we can begin to have a conversation and tackle the challenges in this sphere. Okay, did you hear me?
Yes, we heard you.
Okay,
yes,
great.
we had you.
I had an entire slide that I wanted to go through. I don't know if there's going to be a question around
please.
that, or
you can go ahead. You can go ahead, please.
Okay, would you like me to share it? I don't think I have the permission to do that.
You've been made a co-host. You've been made a co-host, piece, so you're able to share.
Right. Okay, let me just do that right now. All right. Can you see my screen? Confirm if you can see my screen, please.
Yes, we can.
All right. Thank you. So
We can.
all right. These are just a bunch of ideas that I think we can, if we're going to have a conversation about moving forward and, building back better and doing something meaningful in this field. I just really put together a couple of thoughts that I would like us to run through. And the whole argument I'm going to make is around this. Back to the roots, right? It might to begin to tackle the challenges of agriculture we see in our society. I'm really suggesting and recommending that we go back to the roots. And what do I mean by that? I think we'll just go through quickly and then run through that. So now, a few years ago, I read an article that really talked about how a lot of countries, really almost every country in the world, is looking to Africa and trying to be in Africa, like own a share of Africa. And we're like, okay, what exactly is in Africa that people are trying to be here? But the truth is, is the situation of other people seeing the value in you that you don't see in yourself. That's the real problem here. So we see how a lot of countries are trying to own the stake in Africa. They are trying to be part of our economy. They're importing a lot of things. They're coming here to just really build and take a stake in the land. And we're like, what's happening here? We don't even see what all the commotion is about. Now, like I've said earlier, there's a statistics, it's out there actually. Let's just look at some of them about how Africa has really 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land. Now that's a big deal, but at the same time, Africa is one of the countries, one of the continents that has a lot of really poor people, really hungry people, and it's just a lot of different things. It is a lot of different things, and it's going to take really looking down and seeing okay, how can these things be? What exactly is happening, right? How can we have this much land that is unused that we can still, there's a whole potential out there. And the World Food Program was even talking about one time about how Africa has the capacity to feed the world. We have the capacity to feed the world, but we are hungry, right? Food prices are increasing every day. So how can these things be? Now, these are all just situation reports. Now, what's happening on the continent? We don't see a lot of young people being interested in this field, and it begs to really question how and why things have gotten so bad. And this is also what makes me to appreciate the work that people like Mr. Akin Alabi, that they're doing in the field, to really sensitize young people about this and say, okay, look, this is not really the picture has not really been painted for you, right? There's so much in this field that you do not see yet, so that we can begin to mitigate this issue of young people losing interest and thinking that agriculture is just for poor people in the villages. How can we move on now? What I mean by going back to the roots to try to tackle some of these challenges is the fact that before now, in traditional African society, long before now, our parents know much about this than we do. The well-being of a whole community was really, really everybody's concern, right? So we know that there was a relationship between a community's well-being, right, and the source of their food. So everybody knew where their food was coming from. Everybody was interested in the farming processes and the food system, and everybody was really concerned about it. And then what young people actually used to do in the villages was to follow their parents to the farms and to really try to cultivate the food that they eat and all of that. But this time around, the past few years and maybe the past few decades since globalization began happening, we don't see that happening often anymore. We don't see that happening. We see that we don't really care about where the food is coming from as long as we can just buy it, right? We're in the era of fast food where you can just click on your phone and order it. Nobody cares about the person that's producing it. Nobody cares about where it's coming from. And that is something that needs to change, really. And another dimension of this whole problem that we need to begin to focus on is the fact that the world has become globalized and so interconnected in a way that there are so many realities now that affect our food system. So we're talking about things like climate change. We're talking about things like a rapidly globalizing marketplace that can really affect farmers in rural communities, they won't be able to sell the things that they produce, and they won't be able to earn decently from the things that they're producing. And we see all of this affecting different nations and different communities at varying degrees, right? So they are all just different things. And we see that the way that the farmers in this part of the world are used to doing this whole thing, it's no longer sustainable for the future that we're heading to. It's not even sustainable for the now we are living in. Developed countries have advanced in a way that they can deploy technological tools, and they've built devices, they've built infrastructure that allows them to advance in how they do agriculture. But in this part of the world, that has not happened. Now it's up to us who see that, okay, there's so much more that we can do, who have the exposure, who have gone maybe places, who know about how that things can be done so much better. It's up to us to begin to take charge and, doing these things better. Now, this whole thing affects every single one of us, right? It needs to be inclusive. The process of restoring, the process of tackling the challenges that we see, it needs to be inclusive. Now, it's not affecting just you in the city, it's affecting the local farmer in the village who doesn't even know that he can do something better with the way he's doing his own business. It's affecting the woman in the market who is trying to sell her produce. It's affecting the low-income family who they are trying to just survive and they don't have enough money to meet the daily rise in food prices, right? There's just, everybody is involved in this problem. And that's why we need to think about not only innovating, looking for solutions that can make our lives better, that can make doing agriculture better. It also needs to be an inclusive process, right? It has to be everyone in the community getting involved. And that's why asking the right questions and finding how things have been done before and building upon that, that's why it's all important. Now, these are all different things now the point of all of this I'm saying is that this is a whole systemic issue that we must begin to think about, right? Innovating, including people, building an equitable future, and making sure that no one is left behind, making sure that you can get everyone on board. And it's very important that we are having this conversation. Now, to move forward, like I said before, how we can begin to think about this and begin to take action is, one, by getting interested. Get interested, begin to ask questions, begin to research how it can be done better. And then secondly, begin to get involved. When you get interested and you see how things are done and you realize that, oh, there can be so much more in this, how can we do this better? Then get involved. You can begin to take action. And it could be volunteering, right? It could be meeting people like Mr. Akin, who is a professional in the field, and saying, okay, look, I'm really interested in what you're doing. How can I partner with you? Do you have a way that I can volunteer? I can serve your organization. Just learn how you guys have been doing this and to learn how I can begin to contribute to learning more about this and really begin to take action. Volunteering is such a good way to go. Or you could choose to start a community farming platform. That is not something that has been really advertised, but it's such a creative way to go about this, and it's a way to include everyone and leave no one behind. Begin to invest into maybe research and maybe invest into organizations that have already built a whole model, a whole democratic model to make agriculture more accessible and make people to be able to invest in it, right? There's a lot of organizations out there that are doing this, but in Nigeria and maybe in Africa, there might not have been a lot of them, but I'm pretty sure that there are a lot of them that have developed this model. For example, I know of an organization called Farm Connect in Nigeria, actually, that they what you're doing is that they've built a whole structure of real estate in agriculture, where you can really invest and begin to really, in real time, begin to invest in agriculture and even get returns on it. It's a good way to ensure that really that there's the resources and everything to go around and begin to solve these challenges. And you can even start a food basket initiative. These are all just ideas that you can begin to explore and research more on to see how you can bridge a supply gap between the farms, between the local farmers and the people who need the things that they're producing. This is a whole model. You can go and research more about it. But honestly, the point is, there's so much more to be done. There's so much that we need to begin to talk about, begin to research about, begin to get interested about, begin to get involved with, right? Someone once said that the problem of hunger in the world is not a lack of food, but the infrastructure to store, process, and supply them. there's room for people coming from different fields like we are, and using your skills and expertise to begin to say, okay, how can, for example, how can we do so much more in this? How can we take agriculture to the next level? How can I use the skills, my expertise? How can I use the things that I know in my own sphere of influence? How can I use it to create solutions? And like Mr. Akin said as well, you need to check out what other countries have done better, advanced countries, what they are doing so well. And you need to see how can we adapt this kind of solution in our local communities and make things better. But in the end, it's really just going to start with you getting interested and you getting involved in this. I hope that this has been insightful. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Peace Martins, for that. That was really insightful and enlightening. And, you were able to tell us, steps to take that we can. And one of the first things you said was interest, get interested. I remember inviting somebody for this event and I was like, I'm interested in agriculture. So what's the point? We don't have to be farmers. We don't have to be digging and be planting crops before we can be part of agriculture. Like Peace said, she said something like lack of food, that the problem we have is not the lack of food, but infrastructure to process, to store. So you might even be in another field, but can partner with somebody doing something related to agriculture and, make it better for everyone. So thank you so much, Peace. Thank you so much, Akin. So it's time for questions. If you have questions, recommendations, suggestions, this is the time to speak. So you can just raise your hand or drop your questions in the chat box. I'll read it out and then our speakers are still with us to answer the question. Unless I forget, there's a prize for somebody, I don't know who. So, and don't let me just break the jinx, just ask your questions. So please, if you have any questions, you can raise your hands or drop your question in the chat box and then we'll take it. And it could also be in form of a recommendation, an idea that you have that you might want to share with us, because while we're here, it's not just to talk about it. There are a lot of talk going on everywhere, but for us to come up with innovations, what can we do, to change the narrative? What can we do to ensure that, food systems are transformed? Okay. We have a question here from Lola Day. Okay, so I'm going to be reading. I'll say thanks for that insightful session. What strategies can one deploy to engage in sustainable agriculture? What strategies can one deploy to engage in sustainable agriculture? We all know how so much chemicals are used in cultivating plants these days. With the issues on climate change and degeneration, natural resources, how can we in our little way make a difference? Akin, are you here? Akin, is he here? Okay,
Doing, I think while we wait for Akin to answer that question, we have Obarororo Johnson. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Who raised his hand? So it'd be good to hear what he has to say, and then we can get back to that question.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for actually pronouncing the name. Although it's Obarororo. Thank you very much. Okay, so permit me to, before the speakers, permit me to actually shed more light on the question that has been asked before giving my own contribution. First, I'd like to appreciate the speakers. This has really been an enlightening session. Like you said, a lot of people might want to attend webinars like this because it is agriculture, like it doesn't really concern a lot of people. So I'm talking about climate change and agriculture. It is no news, it is no news that climate change is actually having a detrimental effect on the agricultural sector, the health. It is a two-way thing whereby we are trying to cultivate crops and we are still trying to produce food by mitigating the effects of climate change and weather imbalance, and also trying to adopt practices that help us not to cause more detrimental effect to the environment. I don't think you understand me. You understand what I'm trying to say? So it is now, there's a can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you. You can go ahead.
Okay. All right, thank you. So now there is a challenge already, which is climate change and the weather imbalance that's happening. So how can we still produce food irrespective of these challenges? And another is, how can we now adopt agricultural practices that wouldn't hurt the environment further? And one of the ways I think, one of the technology used in mitigating this is greenhouse farming. Now with greenhouse technology, you can cultivate food crops and vegetables without having, like, in the climate controlled environment, whereby the direct effects of sunlight or rainfall imbalance does not affect the crops. You get to regulate, although the technology is quite expensive. But if there are ways whereby these things can be locally fabricated and made within the country to reduce the cost of transporting them down from our foreign countries, whereby with this technology you can regulate the amount of sunlight and the amount of rainfall that your crops will be exposed to. So that in that way you get optimal results. And one of the things that does is also it improves precision farming. By that you mitigate the effect of pests, insects. Like there are a whole lot of advantages to it, and then you can guess, you can get data, you can guess accurately the amount of yield that you'll be expecting, and you can use that to make financial projections. Use that to accumulate data and all of that. So that is my answer. That's my own contribution to the question I was asked. And now the contribution I was going to give to the whole session is, Ms. Martin said something when she was speaking. She talked about this era whereby people can order food. So that is actually distancing them from the source of the food. Like with your phone, you can call and you can make orders and they bring the food right to your doorstep. And so you don't have much reason to care about where the food is coming from. Now, I now take a deep breath and I look at the generation coming after us. If it is like that for us, and we are complaining and we know that we need more human resource across different sectors, we need more human resources, we need more people, more young people in the agricultural sector. If it's like that for us, then what will happen to the generation that are currently in secondary school, the generation that are currently in primary school? Because technology is developing every day. And one of the things that technology is supposed to do is to make things easier. So getting food should be easier. Like if we are ordering food, maybe only God knows what's going to happen in the next 10 years from now. Now, who is going to keep farming this food? Who is going to keep producing this food? It's actually the major concern. So it is important that we start preaching the good news of agriculture in a different way to even these children in their high school. I think it is time whereby if we have stakeholders or people that are in the educational sector that can actually advise, starting from, like, look at what you said earlier, the book that we read. Some of those things are the things that shape our perspective towards agriculture while growing up. Like when they put a picture of a farmer in those books, you see a hut, you see wearing a singlet that is torn, and you're like, no, this is not me. This will not be me. Like you have that mentality right from the time. So if we can actually still leverage on these channels, actually pass the message of agriculture to them in a better way, so that they start seeing it in a better light. Because first you have to be attracted to it. The perspective the perspective they have towards agriculture is nothing to write home about. So they need to be attracted to what they would even get into. So it starts from the classes, it starts from the lessons that they learn, the agricultural practicals that they do, and them seeing agriculture in a different light. So that by that time, it might be sad that there will be nobody that would actually want to go to the farm. If it is like this in our generation, I don't want the picture was going to be like 20 or 30 years from now. And we are talking about sustainability in any way. It is continuity, passing it down from generation to generation, which the future is really bleak now when it comes to agriculture. But there's still time for us to take action and still record change.
All right, thank you so much, Johnson. Let me just say Johnson. Thank you so much for that insightful. One very important thing is what he said. He said preaching the good news of agriculture, making it attractive. We must because the two speakers have said it, we must be interested. Interest is just the first thing before we can think of changing or transforming any system. Interest is the first thing. So going back to the question from Lolade Peace, you'd help us with this question. So she's asking, what strategies can one deploy to engage in sustainable agriculture? Knowing that chemicals are used in cultivating plants these days, with the issue on climate change and the generation natural resources. So how can we in our little way make a difference? Peace, over to you.
All right, thank you very much. That's a very interesting question,
Yeah,
and
just
yeah, very interesting question. And I would just like to say that now we've had people give their perspectives on different things that agricultural entails really. We've had Mr. Akin Alabi talking about what he's been up to, what his organization has been up to, and how that they are making serious research on how all of these things can be done better. Now, the thing is, if you want to talk about precisely how to engage, you might want to go ahead and do more research in that regard. For example, what part of agriculture are you interested in? You're talking about, so we you need to think about what part you're interested in, and then think about who are doing something in that place, who have done something meaningful in that place, and how can I learn from them. Now, you're not going to get actually, Google might not have all the answers, right? Because some of these issues are actually context specific. There are some issues that someone might be talking about on Google, but it's in another part of the world. So if you want to get something really precise for where you are, you might need to start even looking at what the local farmers in your community are doing and what organizations have made research in that regard, and how you can begin to learn from there, and then begin to build up. So one way to engage, you cannot go into a field and just start solving problems. You need to understand it systematically. You need to understand the source of the problem, the root causes. If we are talking now, the major fear that people in agriculture have is, how can we do this organically? How can we do this without using chemicals? Because they're also dangerous for our health, right? But taking time to go through the research and learning what has been done, and why this is meaningful. There's a lot of body of work out there, actually. To be honest, there's a lot of research that's been done to be able to do this organically and otherwise, right? But it starts with really taking the time to learn more, see how it's been done, then really taking time to ask the right questions from people who are there. I don't know if that helps, but I think that that's a good.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So our time is fast spent, but let's just quickly answer about 2 questions. Yeah, and then
Sorry, Doing. I also,
okay.
Aki is back actually, and I
Okay.
really want to have his perspective to this topic.
Okay. Okay.
Because I know he deals a lot with large farms, managing farms for people. And you're talking about large hectares of land. Where's Aki again? Okay. So, and this whole issue of sustainable agriculture, using of chemicals and all of that, mechanization. There's this rule of thumb that using of tractors and using all these things, actually compact the soil, and that because we do not practice agriculture like we used to practice it in those years where you have rotation farming, you do mixed cropping and all of that. But now on a farmland, yeah, maybe consistently planting maize or cassava, and then it depletes its nutrients because certain crops take out nitrogen. Some put nitrogen into the soil, like legumes. So Aki, that's you're managing several big farms for big men. What's your take on this? Sustainable agriculture. And how chemicals are being used. Linking that to climate change. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Shubumi. Thank you for the question again. So this is it. Sustainable agriculture means sustain. Yes, can we sustain agriculture in Nigeria? It's diverse. Exactly who the farmers are. Number one, where is the location? Who are the farmers? Then are there government policies agriculture? Now let's pick it one by one. Where now? There are issues where mix our commodity up in terms of this is whereby certain crops are not meant, and because of the fact that yes, sure, you went ahead or certain soil. Let me use not even look. Let's say not meant for a particular commodity, but because you've not done the proper soil test, proper check of the location in terms of market and all that, you went on such location. Now, without even telling you it's going to be a failure. To sustain agriculture, right factors into it. You check the soil, the environment. Those are things you put during a commercial farm or Number one. Then two, farm. What are the policies surrounding, the government policies surrounding support? Are there availability of seedlings for farmers within that area? And number two, checks, whereby it involves government or government support. That's another angle again, is into the environment, the farm. Is it prone use like to use like what's it called? That is erosion. That is another. Sustain that, you must before you even put your one the business. What we have done to sustain is to, first of all, when we're going to, we do what we call a farm analysis, what everybody calls today, where before you start up a farm product survey, or you do what we call a farming. You do it for like a week, checking the soil. You do it about the environment, about the land where you want to start. Those are things you need to first of all check first. Now, when that has been, you now move to the next stage. Commodity is suitable to what particular area that needs to be checked. Once that is also, now go to market. What are the markets around you? Is it a purpose, or you want basically commercial purpose to FMCGs, OLAM, etc., depending on. And again, in last funding, where do you want to get your funding? Complain a lot about funding. Funding. What I tell people is this: if you are interested, the number one person you need to go is the bank. Your bank, ask them, do you have farmers? If they said yes, they have, into such level of funding if it's available. If it's not, save towards a farming project. It doesn't mean you have to start on a small level. There are farmers which is just about what 6 plots, but it depends on with. Now, in terms of product, what type of mixed cropping is cropping? What we advise clients practice is always, most of the farms are working on we do cash crops, mixed arable crops. We're also doing maize and soya beans. We're also doing cassava, vegetable. So that helps us to take care of working funds that you need for start the 3 years. As your oil palm start germinating, 10.5 years before you start your. You hear me?
Line is actually
Yes,
breaking.
we can. We're struggling to actually hear you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yes. So
Only
that
what I
we
was
don't.
saying.
Yes. Okay. All right. Please go ahead.
Okay. Let me just wrap up. Sustainable agriculture. Number first advice: please do not into the business of agriculture, so that you don't bite your feet money. The first thing you do, learn the process. Learn the process. Start small. Start small. So finger bonds. You learn from that process. From that and move further. Don't start big amount of money into agriculture. And you're now complaining now. Start small, grow small. With time, you the biggest farmer. That is the way we have been doing our helping us since the time we so far.
All right, thank you
Did
so
you get
much.
that? Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Akin, for that. Start small, grow small. So we're not just going to get there and just have that big farmland with everything, working out. We need to make inquiries, like Pete said earlier, to get to know more about what we want to get into, get interested, get knowledge, and start small, grow small. Okay, so we're going to take the last question from Ikeo Parapios. So I think he asked the question, he wants to ask a question. So after that, would go for our gifts, or whoever wins the gifts, I'll give you the gist and let you know what the gift is and what it takes for you to get the gift. So Ikeo Parapios, are you there? So you can go ahead with your question, and then that'll be all.
Okay, thank you very much. I deeply appreciate for the opportunity.
Just in like 30 seconds, because.
Okay, a quick one. How can we adopt the best practices for our agricultural products to generate revenue, not having the need to use GMO products? How can we adopt best agricultural practices and at the long run we generate revenue and we need not to make use of GMOs? I don't know whether we can hear me clearly.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
GMOs, can you
genetically modified product.
Okay. So Akin, would you like to help us with that?
Can I respond to that?
Yes, please, you can.
He said, how can we stop using use of it? It doesn't need to be shared.
Yes, basically.
Can we stop? You mean how can we stop?
No, how can we, or possibly if you can paraphrase the question, that should be what it means. But clearly, how can we venture into agriculture and generate new possible revenue in the long run?
Okay, just to be sure of what you said, I don't know the level you are currently. Sorry?
Let me read the question how it said, how can we adopt best agricultural practices and generate revenue, not having need to use GMO products? Did you get that?
Okay, I think what we can also do, doing so that we don't, waste too much time and we don't keep people waiting is, I think the network is also a bit fuzzy. We can hardly hear Akin and Ikeo Parapios. So, Pius, can you please share with me your contact details, your phone number and your email address? And then I can connect you with Akin, and then, we can do justice to your question. For other people that might want to have answers to that as well, would create it as content on social media and share it in the coming week. We really promised to have this in 1 hour, and we're 13 minutes behind schedule. I hope that's fine. Permit me, please. So Doyin, please go ahead and let's wrap this up. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, everyone, for staying this long. Okay, so Akin wrote a book, and the title of the book is The Rise of Digital Agriculture, The Rise of Digital Agriculture. And so we have a copy to give out to somebody here. So I'm going to be asking a question based on some of the things Peace shared with us. So she gave us about like 5 steps on how we can, get into agriculture. And also, I don't know, anybody, if you have answers to the question, just raise your hand. You can raise your hand. So you're just going to give me 3 out of the 5 she answered. Okay, Johnson is raising his hand. Okay, nobody else. Okay, you can go ahead, Johnson.
Johnson, please go ahead.
Johnson, please go ahead. Stanley to his rich. Is it there? Okay.
Oh.
Stanley, go ahead. Okay.
Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm Stanley. I'm actually into rice processing and also cultivation here in Cross River State. Hello?
Okay. I can hear you.
Stay with me, please.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I've been trying to do a research on how I could use the rice husk to do biofuel, as in to generate electricity for my production. I have not actually succeeded, and I feel if I could ask this question, if I can get any help or direction on how to go about it.
Okay, Stanley. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Stanley, thank you. For questions, we're done with questions for now because, we're late. We're supposed to round off the session by 5 o'clock. So you could just send, so you could just send us a direct message on Instagram. We've dropped our Instagram handle there. So we'll connect you with the speakers and then you can ask your question.
Okay. All right,
yes, thank you very much.
Can I give an answer now?
Yes.
Okay, she talked about innovation. She talked about inclusion, and she about community.
Okay. Thank you so much, Johnson. So Johnson has the book, so we'll get in touch with you and you're going to get the book. Thank you for your participation. That's your gift.
Yeah.
All right, so over to you, Shubhami. You can round up.
All right, I'll be real quick. Wonderful job you've done doing for moderating that session, and it was really quite insightful. I want to thank everyone that joined in. We appreciate you joining, coming on board to listen to what we had to say. And we enjoin you to please follow us on all our social media platforms so that you keep up to date with all our activities and learn more about our core focus areas, which really is women, agriculture, and youth, all get towards sustainable development. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you once again. To our speakers, Peace and Aki, I love you guys. Thank you for taking time out of your very, very busy schedule to be here. Aki had to, and that was why I couldn't use his video. His video was on. He had to travel to Abuja and somehow just still was able to join in. We appreciate you all, and we look forward to the next Youth Connect, and we look forward to ensuring that we make use of these information that we've gathered to create more impactful actions. Thank you once again, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye for now.
Thank you, everyone. So I think we should take a photo or something.
All right, yeah, sure, that's fine.
Yes. Yeah, so everybody can unmute and just say "I,"
So you can turn on your videos.
Yeah, you can turn on your videos, please. Let us see your handsome and beautiful faces. So because, wow, thank you for joining, everyone. Thank you,
winning women. I see you.
Johnson, our winner, Stanley,
Thank you.
Thank
you. Unfortunately, I started very late, and I hope we could get a recording of the proceedings.
Yeah,
yes, you will. Yes, you will.
Thank you.
Thank you. Satire, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Godswill, I see you. Thank you.
It's what to cover up. Yeah.
Okay, so everybody say cheese. I'm sure she'll move things.
Cheese, man.
Cheers.
All right. Okay, we're done, right?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Olashiwumi, and I'm the initiator of Woven Impact Network. Woven Impact Network was set up from a need of demystifying sustainable development, leveraging on storytelling, strong engagement, carving out opportunities. Hi, I'm Olashiwumi, and I'm the initiator of Woven Impact Network. Woven Impact Network was set up from a need of demystifying sustainable development, leveraging on storytelling, strong engagement, carving out opportunities for taking impactful action. And this is the why. Stories help us reflect on the past, make sense of the present, and project into the future. This serves as a vehicle that amplifies and inspires action in these three core areas: food and agriculture, youth development, and women. Join us on this journey. Let's make impact together.